Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hard for Justice, a Steven Seagal podcast. With me today is my buddy Craig from the Slycast podcast. So what's the last episode you guys did?
Daylight.
Daylight?
Yes.
I have not seen that movie. Can you tell me briefly if it's worth watching? Or I know we're kind of not going off the Steven Seagal, but give me your brief synopsis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny, for this episode we're doing Under Siege, right?
Yep.
And Under Siege, is kind of talked about as like, Die Hard on a boat.
Yeah.
So like Daylight is kind of like Die Hard in a tunnel. So basically one of the tunnels leading into Manhattan floods out, and Sly and a bunch of people have to find their way out. It's a good like mid-90s picture. It was kind of that era where like practical effects were still a thing. So you can see these huge sets at play, which I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Like, even though I look at it and I can see that it's like hydraulics and stuff working things, the fact that your mind is processing that this was really something that Sly was interacting with.
Right. Yeah.
I'll always give practical effects a pass over computer effects. And say what you will about it, but I'd say if you haven't seen Daylight, it's definitely worth checking out. It's not top tier Stallone by any stretch, but it is sort of the end of peak Stallone. He's still in great physical shape. He's in his 70s now and still in great physical shape, but he was still quote unquote a young man. It's got some good action beats, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Okay. And we're digressing, but I like Stallone, so we can do that. Where would you rank it in like terms of cliffhanger? Because that's one of my favorites of his. I know that one's really cheesy, but I love that one.
Oh, it's not on the same level as Cliffhanger by any stretch. Cliffhanger is probably if you're not counting the Rocky or Rambo movies, a top 5 Stallone movie.
Yeah.
I would rank it, below Cliffhanger, but above The Specialist, if that helps.
Okay, yeah, it does actually. That just kind of put it right in the ballpark for me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, getting back to Seagal. I know we've been away for a while, but we're back now. We're gonna be talking about Under Siege.
Thank goodness, because I got to tell you, sitting down to watch Under Siege, knowing that I was sitting down to watch Under Siege,
right, and
knowing I was gonna have to sit down with you and talk about a movie like The Glimmer Man. Made me so happy, and I haven't watched Under Siege in years.
Yeah, me either.
So it was a real treat to bring it up on Netflix right here and watch it. And man, I don't want to spoil the episode, but man, it hits all the right beats.
It's really good. I mean, it's one of my favorite Seagal movies, and it was the only one I believe that got a sequel. Right, I don't think any of his others got a sequel. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, and the sequel was actually not too bad either. It was like Die Hard on a train.
Yeah, and you can't go bad anytime your bad guy is Eric Bogosian.
Yeah, because he has the equal like creepy and like absolutely ridiculous at the same time. It's like, do I believe him? But he's going to kill me, so I should probably pay attention. Came out in 1992. Was made for $35 million and grossed $156 million. So I guess that's why they gave it a sequel. Of course, as starring Seagal, Tommy Lee Jones, who was great. Gary Busey, and of course the lovely Erica Eleniak. I'm not sure you say that.
Eleniak, yeah.
Eleniak. From the 1992 issue of Playboy. I still have that one downstairs. No, I'm just kidding.
And this came right after that great run of films, Above the Law, Hard to Kill, Marked for Death, Out for Justice, and then Under Siege. And I think, it's hard to argue that any action star had a run of 5 films that were that consistent. I mean, I think after this movie, the level of quality starts to decrease, but man, coming out of the gate, your first 5 at-bats, if you will, that's a really, really strong filmography.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of makes it's sad when it kind of gets to the later ones, which granted I have not seen, to be honest with you, some of the later cheesier ones, but kind of makes me wonder what happened. This one didn't feel. I guess he's only in this movie for 41 minutes total. So like Tommy Lee Jones has more screen time than him, but so I guess that's why it doesn't feel like a Seagal movie. It just feels like a good action movie with Seagal in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the problem, and I guess we will call it a problem with those later films, is it happens with everybody. It happened with Sly too. I think when you reach a certain level of stardom in Hollywood, and you start to get more control and more of a say in how things are done on your movie sets, depending on your creative aptitude and your perspective, it can either make things really good, or it can make things go bad. And I think one thing that's interesting in this movie is I wanted to talk right up front about Seagal's performance, because to me this seemed like probably the closest to how Seagal probably really was in the early 90s, because it's got natural. Yeah, it's got that he's got like that arrogance, especially when he's interacting with Gary Busey and the other officers, and you know, they're downplaying him. You know, they think he's just a cook. They don't realize, you know, that he's a ex, you know, Navy SEAL or whatever. Right. But just Seagal's delivery was just that tinge of arrogance. It really worked for me. Yeah,
it was like I was going to say. Yeah, it was very natural. Whereas in the other movies, sometimes they seemed kind of forced. And I think some of the movies where he had more control, it was kind of, they weren't as good. You know, maybe he got a little too cocky, but it was very, very, very natural movie for him. Like I said, he was kind of just playing himself a little bit.
Yeah. And you got him reuniting with his Above the Law director, Andrew Davis, who is, I think a lot of people probably know him from The Fugitive.
One of my favorites. It's a good one.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably his most well-known movie. I know he went on to do that, I think a Keanu Reeves movie, Chain Reaction.
Oh, okay.
He did a Hitchcock. I think it was actually an unofficial remake of Dial M for Murder called A Perfect Murder.
Oh, I did he do that one with
Gwyneth Paltrow?
I actually like that one.
Yeah. And then he did the unfortunately timed Schwarzenegger vehicle, Collateral Damage, which I don't know if you remember. 9/11 really sort of did a number on that film from its marketing perspective. Okay. He's a good director, though. I mean, if you watch The Fugitive, The Fugitive's a great movie.
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah. There was they did like some of the people from The Office. I don't know if you remember the Office TV show.
Yeah.
Did like one of them, the guy that plays Jim on the show, did like a PSA, public service announcement, like kind of like the more you know type things.
Yeah.
Where he basically just comes on and says, you know, The Fugitive is a really, 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 really good movie. And it's like, the more you know, it's like, that was like the best PSA ever. It's like the kids need to know how good that movie is.
That's funny. Also interesting, this movie was a spec script, which for those listening that don't know, a spec script is an unsolicited script that a writer uses to sort of get work. So this writer, J.F. Lawton, it's a script that was originally called Dreadnought.
Yeah, I read that.
A spec script, so he wrote it without, an assignment. He just wrote it on his own as sort of a calling card and got paid $1 million for it. And I think that kind of launched his career.
Yeah, so was this his first script then? That he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's pretty good. Let's see, what was his name you said?
J.F. Lawton.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, that'd be a lucky break to have that be your first. What else did he do?
I think he did DOA, that volleyball movie video game.
Well,
it's not the best career, but
hey, they're still paying him, right?
Yep.
He's got one coming up called Yellow River. Actually, that was last year, I guess. DOA back in 2006. It's more than I've done, so I can't really knock him for that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, and it looks like he also wrote Chain Reaction. So he reteamed with Andrew Davis for that.
I remember seeing this in the theater, Under Siege. Mm-hmm. And let's see, I was like 14 or 15. So I remember going to see it with my dad, and it was great up until the Eric Elena part. It was a little awkward when they came out of the cake. It's like, because he didn't know that scene was going to be in there. He's like trying to rise.
Yeah, and she showed the full, full set.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I did not mind that. I heard Steven Seagal was like upset that he was like teamed up with her.
Yeah.
As kind of like this bimbo. That was his words.
Yeah.
I guess he later reconsidered.
I had read that he originally turned this down because of that, and then they sort of beefed up her character and made her a little bit more street smart, if you will, and a little bit more capable, which is kind of interesting considering some of the casting couch stories you've heard about Seagal. So it was interesting to know that.
I would, given his past, I would not think he would mind having her as a co-star at all.
But this really is a loaded movie. I mean, you've got your two baddies. You got Tommy Lee Jones and then Gary Busey. This is like peak Busey. I mean, he's in great form here, great performance, just a tremendous villain. And we'll talk a little bit about him later, I guess, as we get to the end of the movie. And then I
could have done without the cross-dressing, but go ahead.
That
was a bad memory burn.
But there's a lot of people that pop up in this movie. Let me see. Cole Meany, that we both know from Star Trek DS9.
An excellent job, yeah.
And let me see. There was some other people there. Bernie Casey from Revenge of the Nerds. I don't know if you recognized him in that really one quick shot. And then also Kane Hodder is credited, who played Jason in the bulk of the Friday the 13th movies and is mainly a stunt performer. So it didn't surprise me to see his name, but I don't recall seeing him. It was probably one of those nighttime scenes on the ship when there's, a lot of firefighting going on.
Yeah, I didn't know that. There was a lot of people I recognized around the Pentagon table or whatever.
Yeah.
Famous character actors.
Yeah, including Dale Dye, who was a military advisor who I think he did a lot of the Vietnam films we know, Platoon for sure. He was one of those guys that they hired to get everybody in shape, military shape, if you will. And he's got a pretty meaty role in this. He's got quite a few lines. So it was cool to see Dale Dye here. And I really like the setup of this movie. They sort of do the thing where they introduce the Missouri, and it almost gets right into things, and you can tell something's amiss right away when Gary Busey comes down and tells Ryback Seagal that he won't be cooking for the captain that night, and they're going to be bringing the food in from outside, and everybody smells something going afoul immediately. And I kind of like the fact that they took care of Seagal up front. They took care of Ryback up front, and it wasn't one of those things where he slipped through the cracks.
Oh, yeah.
Like a Die Hard, where,
exactly.
Die Hard was set up perfectly. But here they were aware of that he was going to need to be,
contained.
And I like the fact that they did that, because it would have been a little predictable, I guess, to have him sort of just fall through the cracks and then, work his way through. So I really, really dug that setup.
Yeah. Do you think it, although they didn't know he was a Navy SEAL, which I don't know if that would be something they would keep secret on a ship like that, or would it be, I don't know.
Well, yeah, what is Tommy Lee Jones later? He gets when they finally pull up his records, I guess they were sealed, and the only one who was aware of them was the captain.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that was all tied into, was it Panama?
I think so, yeah.
I guess Ryback had some kind of mission in Panama that didn't work out the way it was supposed to. And instead of being discharged, he was demoted to, a yeoman petty class or something. And I guess because the captain liked him.
Right, yeah.
I don't know how realistic that is, but for movie storytelling purposes, it worked.
Yeah, because I think the Tommy Lee Jones character, Stranix, was like a former supervisor or something of his, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dale Dye. I just looked him up because I didn't recognize the name, but he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in, I think, the one with Dustin Hoffman and Outbreak. Was he Yeah, no, you'll see him in a lot of stuff. I think after his military career, he sort of made a nice career for himself in Hollywood as an advisor, and I think people just like putting him on screen as well because he's authentic. Oh yeah,
you can't fake that.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was watching it. I don't think. I know they gave obviously Tommy Lee Jones top billing over Seagal, but it's still shown as or comes across as a Seagal film that's how they advertise it.
Oh yeah,
which I guess makes sense because he's the hero. But
and Tommy Lee Jones also gets a songwriting credit.
Does he?
Yeah, that song they do that he plays harmonica on.
Okay.
In the end credits, I noticed that I think basically everybody on that stage got a songwriting credit. So I don't know if it was something they were improvising or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with Tommy Lee Jones though, because he's like the perfect. I don't know. He's an excellent actor, so he can play the straight man. He can play the bad guy. He does crazy very well, just like Busey.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So I guess the main plot is Stranix wants to sell the ship's tomahawks, right? By loading them into a submarine, because I guess he wants revenge for the CIA trying to assassinate him for prior deeds that he did.
Yeah, it kind of felt like The Rock to me, and I know The Rock came after this, but The Rock was sort of the same kind of loose, disgruntled ex-military guys wanting to get revenge.
Yeah. Oh, and I can't remember the actor or the character's name. The guy that they choose to guard Ryback in the freezer.
I remember he was actually, I think, in The Fugitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name now, but do you remember when you first saw this? Did you see this in the theater, or was it like a?
You know what? I think I missed this one in the theater because at this point when it came out, I was in my first year of college, so I don't remember going to the cinema a lot that year. So I'd say I probably saw this when it hit home video. It was probably a blockbuster night,
right? Where does this rate in your list of Seagal flicks? Is this one of your? I know you mentioned that you like it a lot. Is it one of your top ones, or?
Yeah, let's see. I would probably mark this, I think, third.
Really?
Only under Above the Law and Hard to Kill.
Yeah. Those are really good. Those are two of my favorites too because it was very. Well, he was still the very thin Seagal back then. And it seemed it's so weird because it's like his acting will kind of fluctuate from picture to picture.
Yeah,
I guess it depends on the script and the director and everything. But
absolutely,
Hard to Kill and Above the Law, he was very gritty, very real. And then this one he was good, but then some of the others just kind of tanks. So I'm looking forward to getting those actually. I guess the director Andrew Davis said this was doing this movie got him The Fugitive, so it was worth working with Seagal again.
Yeah,
which I think it's a fair trade off. Seagal.
Oh yeah,
for getting to do the Fugitive. I actually, for shits and giggles, I actually contacted Gary Busey's manager. To see about how to get an interview. He has not yet returned my call, but I expect it any day now. These days I'm like, what the hell? They can only say no, right? If I don't, if they don't ask,
absolutely.
Get a yes. So, I got Stephen Tobolowsky, excuse me, for the other episode. So I was like, what the hell? Can you imagine having interviewing Gary Busey?
I'm sure that would be an adventure in unto itself.
Yeah, that would make people quit, I think. Were you surprised when they came out with a sequel to this one? Or was it kind of like, Because it didn't, this one didn't end as like a cliffhanger or anything. It just kind of...
Yeah, you know what? No, I wasn't surprised because, sequels were... I don't know if sequels were still like a really, sort of new and novel thing here, right? Like, you were getting lots of sequels in the 80s, but, it seemed with action movies, you saw it with Speed and they made Speed 2, which you didn't really think needed another one. And I think the Die Hard movies were doing so well that just anything that could sort of, I guess be adjacent to that. It's kind of like John Wick now. Like everybody tries to make their action movie look or feel like John Wick.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of the same thing. If you had like a Die Hard concept, look at us. I mean, Van Damme even did it with Sudden Death, which was Die Hard at a hockey rink.
Does the network have a Van Damme podcast? I can't remember. I
don't think so. I think Ryan was talking about, attempting to reach out to somebody that had one, or thinking that that was something we needed on the network, but not yet.
Okay. I mean, I think all these podcasts are needed though, because over the years I've realized just how many really bad action movies there are, and good ones too. I mean, of course, but it's like these have to be talked about. Some of these, I'm just shocked. Like, I never heard of this one. It was like 2019 Van Damme. Somebody else. I'm like, I never heard of it, but of course it just went straight to streaming. So
Yeah.
Went straight to the toilet. No, okay. I was watching because I just watched it before we jumped on, and I'd forgotten it's kind of skipping to the end, but when Ryback faces Stanix, Stranix, in the I don't know if it's the bridge or whatever, but it ends with like a thumb to the eye and a knife to the head, and then throws him into a console.
Yeah, and that definitely seemed like it was cut down too.
Oh yeah,
because they even slowed it down, I think. As I was watching it, I was like, there's got to be a more violent cut of that somewhere, because it felt to me like that was cut for violence.
More violent than the thumb into the skull. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, the whole sequence of shots just felt weird to me. And I got to say, now that we're talking about the end real quick, the fight was kind of, interesting, because you had that Seagal, style where it's just lots of hands.
Yeah.
But the way they shot it, and, probably the way Tommy Lee Jones learned the moves, it looked good. Yeah. And I got to say that at least he had a good sort of villain death, where Gary Busey, he just gets blown up from afar.
Right.
And, I had to think about it, because I'm like, you see the shot where you see Busey and the other guy sitting there, and then you see the explosion. And then it took me like maybe 10, 15 seconds. I was like, oh, that's it for Gary Busey, Yeah. And then I was like trying to remember if maybe there was like a sort of last minute, horror scare where he jumps out all burned up, and thankfully they didn't do that.
That kind of would have been cool, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been a right from the Die Hard playbook.
Yeah. Which, he was in, Gary Busey was in the first Die Hard as, what is it, Joshua? Remember?
No, that's Lethal Weapon.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Yeah. I meant Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
My Parkinson's brain fucked me there.
Yeah. No, he's got that great fight with Mel on the front lawn, where the sprinkler system has broken or whatever. And, he was, Mr. Joshua was probably like one of his best roles. I mean, if you don't look, go back to like Buddy Holly or something like that.
Exactly. Which I love him in Buddy Holly. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what's funny? I don't want to get on a huge tangent here, but as we're recording this, we're a couple of days removed from the anniversary of Elvis's death.
Oh, okay, really? Yeah.
And I watched for the first time ever, I had never watched it, the John Carpenter, Kurt Russell Elvis movie.
Oh, that's pretty good. I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, I was it was good. I mean, it's almost like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But man, Kurt Russell was awesome. I mean, I know he didn't do his own singing or anything, but he had Elvis down pat, man.
What was it called? Just Elvis, I imagine, or?
Yeah, I think it was just Elvis. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, don't feel bad about doing side tangents or whatever. It's totally fine.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Kurt, sort of made a career on the action side of things. Kurt Russell has a really interesting career, because he didn't get branded an action guy, but he did a ton of action movies. He did, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, Tango and Cash with Sly.
Yeah.
But he never got pigeonholed, which is, I guess he just made a lot of the right choices along the way. But it's interesting that, he played Elvis and did action movies, and Gary Busey played Buddy Holly and did action movies. And,
right. Real quickly, Craig, what is your thumbs up, thumb down on Big Trouble in Little China?
Oh my goodness. Huge double thumbs up.
Otherwise, we would have had to stop this podcast right now.
No joke. John Carpenter is probably the filmmaker that I love the most.
Really?
I have a whole side podcast devoted to Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, and that movie means a lot to me. But in terms of overall filmography, and just what he did as a filmmaker, John Carpenter is my guy. And I think that run of films from Halloween through probably They Live, I think you'd be hard pressed to find another filmmaker that had a run of films that good.
Yeah.
He's made multiple masterpieces. I mean, The Thing, which is just next level stuff. Halloween is a masterpiece of horror. And then, you've got other movies there like Escape from New York, which is sort of like this, sort of masterpiece of B movie filmmaking. It's just, I really respect him as a filmmaker. And the thing I like about him most is he always considered himself a filmmaker, and filmmaking was his job. And even though it always said John Carpenter's whatever above the title, he always thought of himself as very much just a sort of journeyman filmmaker. And I don't think there's anybody like him before or since. I understand he sort of got frustrated and fed up with Hollywood, and, his last couple of movies weren't, to the level that we expect from him. And he's doing some excellent music with his son and his godson, Dave Davies. He's put out 3 excellent Lost Themes records. And he did the score for the last Halloween movie, which is just, excellent stuff. But
he did the music for Big Trouble too, didn't he?
He did the music for most of his films. And that's amazing that as a director, he would be like, I'm going to write this, I'm going to direct it. And you know what? I'm going to do the score too.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk offline, Craig, about this common love that we have. Because for my 40th birthday, I had a Big Trouble in Little China birthday, bash, party. So yeah.
Awesome.
A huge fan.
Yeah.
You either love the movie or hate it. And the people that hate it, I just don't associate myself with.
Yeah, it's funny. I went back to work about 2 months ago at this point, and I remember probably the first or second week back, I got home one day and my wife was out back in the garden, and I looked at my watch and I said, you know what? I got time for this, and I put on Big Trouble in Little China, and timed it almost perfectly for my wife to finish outside so we could eat dinner. But we definitely have to chat that up because
it's like this suddenly became a Big Trouble in Little China podcast, metamorphosized into it. Yeah, I could go on and on about Big Trouble.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Back to Under Siege, the first one. Let's see. So eventually, of course, Seagal foils their plans. Stranix tries to launch 2 nuclear-tipped tomahawks. He finds his way to the control room. He encounters Stranix. They recognize each other. They do this kind of fight, abridged fight, according to Craig. And he gives a thumb to the eye, knife to the forehead, throws him into the radar screen. Destroys the Tomahawk missile. Navy calls off the strike, and of course he rides off into the sunset after the funeral of the captain with Erica Eleniak. How do you say that?
I think Eleniak.
Eleniak, yeah.
I think so. That's how I've always said it.
They should have had her in Under Siege 2. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah.
For various reasons. Let's see. But yeah, overall, this was I probably agree with you. After Above the Law and Hard to Kill, probably my 3rd favorite Seagal. Although it's hard because it's such a good, the Above the Law and Hard to Kill were good Steven Seagal movies, and this is a good movie overall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? Until you pointed it out, I didn't realize that he was only in, 41 minutes of this? Yeah. I thought the whole sequence where he's locked in the meat locker, I think that whole sequence was great. I thought it was kind of more for the audience than anybody else that the guy that was guarding him gets shot.
Yeah.
It just seemed weird to me that they had gone out of their way almost to just secure everybody on the boat. It didn't seem like their primary objective was to kill people.
Right now.
But that guy was shot in the back. And again, I think that was more for the audience's benefit because we were supposed to hate that kid for basically doing his job.
I felt bad that he got shot. I was like, oh, he's kind of a nice kid.
Yeah, but I think it was punishment for not listening to Ryback. But I liked I liked Ryback trying to convince him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also saying, hey, just call the captain. And I also liked how he thwarted those two guys, when they open the meat locker and they just unload on it. Mm-hmm. He's, of course, up in the, was it an air vent?
I think so, yeah.
He comes like out of a vent, which I didn't know, why didn't he just use that air vent to get out?
Right.
I guess it doesn't go out, it just goes up. But either way, I thought that was a good sequence. I think it showcased Seagal's, physicality, mm-hmm. Where in pretty rapid succession, he gets the jump on those two guys and is able to lock them in the meat locker.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they fire their way out right away, but he shuts the lights off. That it's just a really well choreographed sequence, well shot sequence. And I always respect when you see sequences where it looks like they actually put some thought into it.
Yeah, exactly. That reminds me of one of the scenes from towards the beginning where Ryback punches the Gary Busey character.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not hitting an officer, that's hitting an officer, And then the guards go for him, but he kind of
he does his hand thing.
He takes him down, but not respectfully. Yeah. He blocks him respectfully because they're just doing their job basically. So I thought that was a good scene too.
Yeah, and it basically ends because he says it's over. Like, okay, right. Guys.
Yeah, which that would not happen in real life, but it's a Seagal movie. So what do you want?
Yeah.
Let's see. I like how they brought back some of the in Under Siege 2. They brought back some of the supporting characters, like some of the military supervisors and generals and stuff mm-hmm. like that. It was a nice touch, I thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit down and watch that one again because mm-hmm. as long as it's been since I've watched Under Siege, it's probably just been just as long since I've watched Dark Territory.
Oh, the actor that plays the guy that guards him in the meat locker, Tom mm-hmm. Wood is his name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was also in Fugitive, U.S. Marshals. Let's see, Private Nash was that character.
Okay, yeah. In U.S. Marshals, the sequel to The Fugitive with Wesley Snipes as the fugitive in that one.
Yeah,
he actually not spoiler. He gets killed.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember U.S. Marshals, but
sorry, go ahead.
That was Robert Downey Jr. at the very start, I want to say,
of his comeback.
Of his comeback, maybe. And I don't want to spoil things for people that haven't seen U.S. Marshals in a while, but you know what? It's a worthwhile movie. It's by no means is it The Fugitive, right. But there's some good action sequences in it, and Tommy Lee Jones delivers, and Wesley Snipes. I'm a Wesley Snipes guy. It's unfortunate that tax advice got him in prison for as long as it did, and
Passenger 57, right? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. What? Die Hard on a Plane.
Yeah. Is that where he's like, always bet on black? Or is
yep.
is that okay? I couldn't remember if that was that one or Drop Zone. That's his other one, another one he does, right?
Yeah, and then, also the Blade movies. I can't. I think I saw the first Blade movie. I think I saw that in theaters 7 times. It just,
oh wow.
That opening bloodbath sequence where it's like the blood rave.
That's awesome.
Goodness,
yeah.
I couldn't get enough of that. But U.S. Marshals definitely worth watching. And
I remember when Marshals came out, I was like, it was like the sequel to The Fugitive. I'm like, I don't know, because The Fugitive was so good. I know they can't have chase after Harrison Ford again, but
yeah.
I thought it was an interesting choice to focus on Tommy Lee Jones' character because he's kind of a dick, right? I mean, that's kind of his thing.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that's that's all right. I'll have to watch that one again though, because I didn't even remember Robert Downey Jr. being in that. To be honest.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. The pre Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. Is or it's let's see, post drug addiction, pre Iron Man. There's some interesting stuff there.
Right. Yeah.
Most notably, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh my goodness! Stop this recording right now and
really
sit down and watch. It's Shane Black wrote and directed, and Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer are just so great together. Val Kilmer plays a gay private eye named Gay Perry.
Of course.
Yeah, just great movie, and it's got that great, quick, Shane Black humor.
Okay. I will put that on the list for sure. I'm looking at it right
Kiss
now.
Kiss Bang Bang. Yeah, great movie.
Interesting. I like Kilmer too. He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, I just watched his documentary last night. It's
Is it
on
good,
Prime
or
now. Yeah,
is it any good?
it is. It's an interesting watch because he was an early adopter of home video, so he always had a camera with him. So this
cool.
documentary is mainly, most of it is footage that he filmed.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a lot of behind the scenes access on movies. His son does the narration because he doesn't really have a voice anymore due to throat cancer. So it's sort of like a melancholy movie because he's sick now and he's not in the best physical condition. But I think it gives you a really good overall picture of Val as a performer. And I don't know if you remember that he was really considered like a troublemaker on some of his films, and to see his perspective and including like the behind the scenes footage, it almost sort of vindicated him a little bit. And I'll forever be a Val fan thanks to Tombstone and his portrayal of Doc Holliday.
Oh yeah, I love that. My God, yeah. That, and of course, I mean, among others, that and Real Genius, of course. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. He talks. You know what? He doesn't really talk about that movie too much in the documentary. He talks more about Top Secret.
See, I did not care for that one, to be honest with you. It was
it's you know what? I didn't even realize until you just said it that they kind of gloss over Real Genius. They talk about Top Secret being sort of his big break, and then Top Gun, of course. They spend a lot of time on The Doors. And then there's a whole section on the island of Dr. Moreau, which is just fascinating. I mean, that whole movie is fascinating.
I walked out of the theater on that one, to be honest with you. It was a little too weird. But
yeah, there's a really amazing sequence in the Val documentary where I guess they show Marlon having a disagreement. I guess when the original director was replaced, John Frankenheimer came in, and he was sort of tasked with just getting the film back on schedule and finished on budget. And I guess apparently Marlon Brando had a lot of ideas he wanted to inject, and John Frankenheimer just dismissed them. So Marlon Brando pretty much checked out. And there's a sequence in the movie that I didn't even realize this until you watch Val's behind the scenes footage, that there's a scene where it's just a body double. One of the scenes where Marlon's in like that white face paint with the hat on, it's another dude. And Val has a whole conversation with him on video where I'm like, wow, I had no idea that Marlon checked out that much.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess he could do that because he was Marlon Brando, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting because Val talks about the main reason he did that movie was to be able to work with Marlon Brando, and then he wasn't able to work with Marlon Brando. So, it's on Prime now. If you have Amazon Prime, it's on
I'll
Prime.
Definitely check that out.
Free to view if you're a member. And like I said, it's a little melancholy, so you won't finish it in the best of moods, but it's maybe watch that and then watch Real Genius, and you'll be in good shape.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you and I need to have a podcast just talking about the movies that we love in general. Okay. So on that note, let's see. I think we've kind of beat the Under Siege horse to death here, since we've been talking about other things.
But I mean, if I had sort of a final thought on this movie, I got to say that it's a really well done, well written, well paced action movie. I don't really think there's any huge complaints I would lodge with it. It did its job as a film, and I think it's like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I know I've talked about it on, probably, if we didn't talk about it on the Glimmerman episode, I know I've talked about it on other episodes of my shows. Is just I think a lot of action movies benefit from like that 90-minute to 100-minute running time.
Yeah, don't try to be something you're not. Just seriously, just do the 90 minutes. You don't need a 2-hour thing. Yeah, it doesn't need to be some grand.
Well, and I think this movie was a perfect example of that, because you got the setup. You get the information you need along the way to sort of paint the picture of who Ryback is. And And it's just a really good sort of lesson in, economical filmmaking in terms of how to get the most out of your screen time.
Yeah.
Or your running time.
Yeah. I always look at, when I'm watching one of these movies, I always look to see what the total minutes are. If it's like above 90, I'm like, oh, damn it. 90
Yeah.
90 I can do even of a bad movie for the most part. But yeah, it's like 2 hours, 15 minutes. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I'll watch that. All right. Everybody, thank you for joining us on Hard for Justice, Steven Seagal podcast. Don't forget to check out the other podcasts in the network at thelastoftheactionheroes.com. Until next time, I'm Michael, and my friend Craig here. Say goodbye, Craig.
Take care, guys.
All right, we'll see you next time. And until then, stay hard for justice.